research found that fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, part of our research too was like looking at the experts who write business card books on like, this is how easy it is to be a million, book published author.
Yeah.
And, I'd read it and I'm like, you just invested $50,000 to sell, so it's great if you have $50,000 up front and you already have a big platform and you already know you can sell this to like 1 million people, right? Because clearly you're going to have a decent return on investment. Most people don't have $50,000
right.
to like publish on Amazon. You know what I mean? Like or in another platform. So, but yeah, no, yeah. So to your point, there are certain, I think they're termed flagship bookstores. And those are the ones that are tracked, that the New York Times uses as their primary tracking bookstores, right?
Yes,
and,
yes. It's like Barnes and Nobles and also independent bookstores and a few other things.
Yeah, certain key ones. Yeah. There are certain key ones, not all, right? It's like a subset.
Right. There's a subset, and in this article they like listed the actual key ones.
Did they? Oh yeah, I need that article. But yeah, it's only I'm pretty sure this is true, but you only have to sell like 5,000 books.
Yes.
At those locations in total, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in theory you could, and I think also it talks about how they found out the key ones was by like cold calling and asking them if they reported to the New York Times. But then part of that is, you're right, you could, if you had we're so inclined to have the money, find out where the key spots were, and then just send either yourself or someone else to go in to these locations and buy the books yourselves.
Yeah, like that's what they did.
Yeah, that's what your only goal was, as a New York Times best-selling author. You just need money. Right. And then you just take care of it yourself.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is, it's a sad reality of that list.
Well, yeah, and I know the one instance I'm aware of, she wrote a YA book that somehow toppled like this long-running YA book, and which someone who follows the New York Times bestseller list, specifically the YA section portion, was like, this is impossible. I've never heard of this author. I've never heard of this book, right? There's been no buzz.
Yeah.
So, like, even in the writing world, so back to the point of, like, overnight bestsellers, typically those authors have been around a long time, right? It's just that the general public don't know who these authors are. So that seems like an overnight bestseller, but in reality, this person was probably pretty well known in writing circles for a while,
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, so this woman had, I don't know who did, called those flagship bookstores and pre-ordered like something like, 500 books per bookstore. So it's not going to take long for you to get on the New York Times bestseller list by doing that. So she would just have to retain those books long enough. I don't know that returns count. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think returns, so they have to buy them and not be returned within a certain, I guess. I have to think about this. I don't know how returns would work, right? So in theory, you could purchase them and then wait a week, because then Times bestseller list, and then return them. And then why do you care? Because if your purpose, the person I'm referencing now, her goal was she wanted to sell it to a movie studio. And the studio said, well, if it becomes a New York Times bestseller, then we'll option it.
Okay.
So, like, literally the day it showed up on the New York Times bestseller list, her hiney was in that studio's exec's office. Okay, look, bestseller. You have to pick me up now. So.
Wait, so I think we might actually be talking about the same article. Is it for the book Handbook for Mortals?
It might be, yeah.
Okay. Because I think I just found the article again. I'll forward it to you anyway. But yeah, It's basically like she figured out. Well, it could be he or she. I wasn't sure on this one, but it was like they called the bookstores. They figured out that buying more than 30 books at Barnes and Nobles or 80 books at an independent store was considered this corporate sale, which then got them in this whole new category.
Yes, that's it.
They spread that out to a few different stores across the country during the same week, and that's how they did it for less than 5,000 books.
Yep.
Yeah. So they might, but I'll forward you this article in case it's a little bit different version of it. But it's kind of fascinating how that works. In your own life, and I guess maybe in on either your writing or your business world life, when there are times when you feel overwhelmed or, say, fearful about taking the next step, what do you do to push past that? And are there any particular questions or feelings that you kind of like notice and ask yourself to help you get past those moments?
Wow. So it's almost like divine intervention, which sounds so hokey, but every time I have sat back and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not talented enough. I'm not, like, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I've never said I'm not talented enough, but, but I have said, I have said that I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. This is exhausting. What's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Every single time someone has reached out to me and either a piece that I wrote got picked up, I had someone reach out to me and, just sort of talk about how wonderful my writing was and how it helped them or changed them, or, like with the Running Wild Press, the reason I didn't do it sooner, because in all honesty, I had several people come to me, including one of my instructors at FU MFA, who said, "You're a brilliant editor." And I don't view myself that way, right? I view myself as, I'm here to help myself or other writers write the best story for readers, right? That whatever that diamond in the rough is, make it a gem and then really put it in front of the light. And in my mind, that wasn't the same thing as an editor. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I really avoided it like the plague. Anytime anyone brought it up, I was just like, I'm not an editor. I don't do that. And someone more recently had come to me and said that they would have never been able to get a story published. We didn't publish it, by the way. It's something that a friend of mine asked me to review and kind of help them edit.
Okay.
And they didn't think they could have gotten it published without my help. And that was like, okay, I guess I am pretty good at this. Right?
Yeah.
So it's things like that. It's moments when, like the instructor at Philadelphia Writers Conference saying, you were born to do this, or, my MFA instructor saying, you're a brilliant editor, or, a reader, someone who's read a piece of mine and said, this really changed my life. Or actually, a bunch of people who are we're going to publish a short story anthology, the second volume, and it's targeted for end of February. And a few people who are in it let me know that they had submitted because they loved the stories we had published before. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to be affiliated with our press. So it's those types of things that make me say, okay, get rid of the self-doubt and just push forward. So
that's good.
Mm-hmm.
In everything that you've done over the years, what would you say is the best advice you've ever received?
So a few. One is, don't give up. If this is something you really want, take a break if you need to, do research, whatever it is you need to do to kind of reinvigorate those juices, but do not give up. No one wins. No one accomplishes. No one succeeds by giving up. Mm-hmm. The other is, do your homework. So, Jade and I could have easily just said, I'm going to go on CreateSpace and I'm going to publish everything I've ever written. And, I'll only invite my immediate close friends and maybe I'll publish their stuff too. And No, we did our homework. We did our research. We found distributors that we thought were decent, easy to work with. We came up with creative ways to do cover art. We, researched different presses and their operating models. We and then try to figure out what fit with what our goals were for the press, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a world of difference. I mean, it's somewhere between pantsing it and having a very thorough 5-year business plan, which I've never seen a business plan, especially when it's 5 years long, actually get executed exactly the way that it was written. But, I could be totally wrong.
Yeah, sure.
So, it's somewhere in between. But, do your research, do your homework, figure out what it is you're really trying to do and how tactically you can actually accomplish it.
Mm-hmm.
To me, those are and try and stay as positive as you can and listen. And I think that's just a life truth, is that when people are telling you something, especially if you hear it more than, 2 or 3 times, there's something there that you really should kind of not just hear, but ingest and figure out how are you going to respond to it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Lisa, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I really appreciate it. If the listeners would like to hear and see more about what you are working on, where is the best place they can find your information?
They can go to runningwildpress.com. We also have a Facebook page, which is Running Wild Press, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a Twitter, which is Run Wild Books. And they can also find me on Twitter at Lisa D. Kastner. And yeah, we're also wherever books are sold. And if they don't have the book, just go up to your favorite bookseller and say, hey, I want this book. And they'll pick it up. So
Perfect. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I will put those in the show notes so that people can just click right through.
Awesome.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
Of course. My pleasure. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Advance Your Art podcast. If you like this episode, please go into iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button so that every single time I release a new episode, it will go directly to you without even thinking about it. If you're interested in hearing older episodes, please go to advanceyourart.com where you can find the catalog of everything I've done so far, as well as contact information and projects I'm working on. Thank you again, and have a great day.